You're watching Alabama Broadcasters Station of the Year. Coverage you can count on. WAAY 31 Midday News starts now.
As we come on air at 11, it feels like 100 degrees here in Huntsville and Scottsboro too. It's only getting hotter from there. We'll have the details coming up.
We're also staying on top of breaking news we first alerted you to this morning. Officials identified 2 men who died in a shooting at a home in Somerville. What we know about the investigation at this hour.
And charges dropped for a Huntsville police officer accused of driving under the influence. Why prosecutors dismissed the case a day before his scheduled trial.
Thank you so much for joining us for WAAY 31 Midday News. I'm Marie Waxel.
And I'm Alex Torres-Perez. We want to start with those dangerous heat conditions. WAAY 31 meteorologist Carson Meredith is tracking what we can expect for today. 100 degrees already?
That's what it feels like here in Huntsville. Yeah, that's exactly right. And those actual air temperatures are already in the lower 90s. 91 last check at Huntsville International Airport, and it's 90 across the board in both Decatur and Muscle Shoals, Scottsboro as well. But this, once again, will be the main focus today. This is what it feels like where you are. We just mentioned at the top of the show, feels like 100 here in Huntsville, feels like 100 in Scottsboro. It feels like 99 in Fort Payne, 96 in Decatur and Athens, and it feels like 98 in Muscle Shoals. And we just, of course, hit 11 o'clock. That heat advisory is now in effect. It just started here at the top of the hour. It covers our entire coverage area today, and it lasts until 7 o'clock tonight. I do expect to see those heat index values above 105 degrees yet again this afternoon. We are dry on the WAAY 31 Storm Tracker Early Warning Radar Network, but there is a small chance for an isolated storm through the afternoon today and for the next couple of days as well. We'll talk about if any of those rain chances bring relief in the heat in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Carson. And no doubt the heat has many of you cranking up the AC right now. TVA reports seeing an all-time record power demand for June yesterday. Now that's despite asking you to cut down on using electricity to avoid a blackout. The agency expects another voluntary curtailment to be in effect every day this week through Friday. They haven't officially announced one for today just yet. Electric use typically surges between 2 and 5 in the afternoon, obviously the hottest parts of the day. TVA leaders ask you to cut back using major appliances like ovens, washing machines, and dryers during those hot afternoon hours. And of course, we'll keep you posted on any announcements from TVA, both on air and online. In the meantime, remember you can track today's heat by downloading our WAAY 31 Storm Tracker weather app. Best of all, it is a free tool to download on your Apple and Android devices. New information this morning. We now know the name of the 2 men who died after an early morning shooting in Somerville.
The coroner says Henry Shoemaker was shot and killed at his home this morning. The suspect was also identified as Carl Orban English.
WAAY 31's Luke Hydash has been on top of this breaking news for us all morning long, and he has a breakdown now of what we know.
It started just after 4 this morning when the sheriff's office says it got a call here on Robin Private Drive that a man had been shot multiple times just up the hill there. And when first responders first got to the scene, they tried to save that man's life, but he ended up dying in the home. And the person who deputies believed to be responsible had taken off in a car, the caller had said. That car was eventually spotted. The person driving led police on a multi-county chase all the way to Arab, where he was eventually stopped on Highway 231 North.
When he was chased, a pit maneuver was engaged, and when the car was coming to a slow roll stop, the subject shot himself.
That suspect was taken to Marshall Medical Center, where he later died. Investigators are trying to figure out right now what led up to the shooting in the first place. In Somerville, Luke Hydash, WAAY 31 News.
Now, there's no word yet on how the 2 men actually knew each other.
Of course, you can count on us to stay on top of this story as we continue to learn the very latest details. We'll keep you posted both on air and online at WAAYTV.com.
And all new at Midday, prosecutors dropped the DUI charges against a Huntsville police officer. Taylor Stegall was supposed to have his bench trial today, but that was postponed. He must now participate in a pretrial intervention program in Morgan County. Stegall could still face the DUI charge in the future. That's after state troopers say he got into a wreck while driving under the influence when he was off duty back in February. Huntsville police say Stegall is still on administrative duties. The police department told me the administrative process is separate from criminal proceedings, but did not comment on those charges that were dropped. And a Rogersville man will go to trial for child pornography today. Michael Newell faces more than 300 counts of producing child porn. Police say he took pictures and videos of an 11-year-old girl while she showered and slept naked.
5 women charged in connection with the baby's death at a Franklin County daycare will face a judge next week. Here are these women, their names, their charges on your screen right now. As you can see, those charges range anywhere from manslaughter to tampering charges. Prosecutors say 4-month-old Autumn Wells died back in March after being put to sleep on her stomach for hours at Tiny Tigers Daycare. Investigators later found several safety violations at that daycare. The baby's mother hopes other parents will be more careful of who they let care for their children.
If I could say anything to other parents, it would be know your daycare, know who's working there, know what's going on, and if you see something, say something. If it's your own child, if it's somebody else's child, don't worry about being embarrassed. Don't worry about being wrong, because who knows? You know, this whole situation could be different.
Those 5 people charged will go before a judge on June 22nd. Now to an update on a story that was breaking this time yesterday. We've learned new information on the man accused of trying to kill police in Arab. He is back in jail. Of course, he was arrested yesterday after 3 days on the run. Federal agents, we're told, worked with local police to arrest Sherman Pierce without incident. Pierce is accused of shooting at officers Friday. He's now charged with attempted murder. We've learned other charges are pending. A Tennessee murder suspect is in jail after a traffic stop in Scottsboro. Police there say they stopped Jared Pickett in a stolen car. And then that's when they found he had a warrant for murder in Marion County, Tennessee. Officials there say Pickett killed a man after getting into an argument about a vehicle in someone's front yard. Well, as the markets drop and interest rates rise, many Americans have few options when it comes to their financial health.
ABC's Veronica Miracle goes over inflation's impact on your savings.
This morning, 40-year high inflation is taking a bite out of Americans' saving accounts. A new survey finds 67% of Americans are rating their savings to cover rising costs.
Savings did rise during the pandemic, in part because it was harder to spend money in some ways, but those savings rates have now gone well below those pandemic levels.
Another sign of potential problems, credit card debt seeing a resurgence.
We're seeing more utilization of credit right now because people are trying to sort of figure out a way to fill in the gap in their household budgets. And there is a risk in that because you're sort of taking on the risk of increased debt. At the same time, you're being hit with these increased prices.
On Wall Street, key recession indicators are flashing warning signs. The S&P 500, the index tied to most 401ks, officially entered bear market territory yesterday, which means the market is down 20% from its recent high. And now the Federal Reserve could be ready to drop its slow and steady approach when raising interest rates. Economists predict the Fed could increase rates by 3/4 of a point tomorrow. That would be the steepest rate hike since 1994. But experts say there is opportunity in the current economic climate.
It's not all bad. Rates on savings are slowly but surely going up. The unemployment rate most recently at 3.6%, more than 11 million job openings as of last count.
And some other good news, stock futures were up overnight, a sign investors may try to buy low this morning. Veronica Miracle, ABC News, New York.
And this morning, Wall Street did open slightly higher, but that's been fluctuating all morning long. And we'll have those closing numbers for you this afternoon on WAAY 31 News at 4.
All new at midday, the Morgan County Commissioners unanimously voted to put pandemic money towards a new welcome center in Decatur. The estimated project cost is $100,000, and that money would come from the American Rescue Plan Act. No word yet on where exactly the new welcome center will be located.
And new at midday, the city of Athens is asking people to stop painting their fire hydrants. The fire and water department are say people are painting them so that they don't stick out with the color scheme of their homes. Only problem is that those hydrants are color coded by water pressure, so painting them over could put first responders' safety at risk. Officials ask that you please understand and remind citizens that those fire hydrants are technically city property.
A state trooper now recovering after being hit on the side of the road.
Why Alabama's move over law could be failing.
Already up to 91 degrees in Huntsville, and it feels more like the triple digits, and it's not even noon yet. We're tracking how long this dangerous heat is with us today. Coming up.
Coverage you can count on. You're watching WAAY 31 News with the WAAY 31 Storm Tracker Early Warning Radar Network.
Breaking news just into the WAAY 31 newsroom. An inmate at the Limestone County Correctional Facility was taken to the hospital after being assaulted by another inmate. The ADOC says the assault happened on Sunday. Officials say the victim, Luther Glenn, is expected to be okay. No weapon was recovered. State officials are investigating this assault. And an Alabama trooper is recovering after being hit while working at a crash scene.
Aaliyah released this photo of the trooper's mangled cruiser. Take a look. It happened on Interstate 59 in St. Clair County. The driver who hit the trooper, we're told, was also injured.
Just as a reminder, Alabama's move over law aims to protect those officers and other emergency personnel working those incidents along the road. That law requires driver to move over or reduce their speed when they come up to emergency responders. And that law also carries a $100 fine for a first violation.
However, that move over law seems to be failing. LDOT crews report they've seen more injuries and deaths in work zones since the law went into effect back in 2009. Back then, 9 people died compared to 2020's 19 deaths in work zone crashes. A recent survey by AAA shows Alabama has nearly half of the people living here in Alabama were not aware of the law and didn't think it was necessary.
It gives the impression that they just don't care, and certainly that can't be the case, but you know, it just doesn't take much effort to slow down and move over.
That same survey found 23% of people weren't even aware of the law, as we just mentioned, in the first place.
Now, as you're trying to find relief from those hot temperatures, many of you will be heading to the pool.
How a shortage of lifeguards, though, could impact your experience poolside.
New information: tomorrow's hearing on the Capitol riot investigation was postponed.
And no explanation given. However, Thursday's hearing is still set to take place. Donald Trump issued a 12-page response to the inquiry, calling it a mockery of justice. Trump calls the Democratic-led panel a kangaroo court that hopes to distract American people from the great pain they're suffering. The committee argues the former president's continued baseless claims of election fraud led to the Capitol riot. Now, this morning, we understand there was confusion among committee members on whether or not the panel would refer anyone to the Justice Department for criminal charges. All new at midday, lawmakers are expected to pass a bill today to increase security for Supreme Court justices. The House appears to be looking to add other clerks and staffers for the High Court to the Senate bill. However, the Senate Minority Leader says that version won't pass. Supreme Court security obviously rose to the forefront over leaked documents showing the High Court is possibly on the verge of overturning the Roe v. Wade abortion ruling. Tonight, the Vice President will lead a roundtable discussion on reproductive rights and the potential impacts of Roe being overturned. The Biden administration is looking into possible executive action it could take if Roe v. Wade is struck down.
And the U.S. is moving closer to offering COVID-19 vaccines to kids younger than 5. An FDA committee begins two days of meetings today. Those meetings will focus on including use of Moderna's and Pfizer's vaccine for young children. That would open up 18 million people in that age group to get a vaccine. A decision could come as soon as tomorrow. Now, this expansion comes as COVID-19 transmission rates are rising. The state public health department says rates are high across all of North Alabama. Here in Madison County, there are 200 new cases for every 100,000 people. Right now, 18% of COVID tests are coming back positive across the state. And with the scorching heat impacting Alabama, many people may want to hit the pool to keep cool, and lifeguards are necessary to make that a safe experience at many public pools. Huntsville's Aquatic Center has about 20 lifeguards, but ideally there'd be about 12 or 15 more. Shortages like that are forcing pools to close or cut their hours nationwide, but here in Huntsville, folks with the aquatics department say that won't be happening.
We've made a number of saves in this facility this summer already, just because people don't understand how dangerous it can be. Anywhere from being in shallow water even to deep water. Having somebody to provide that extra layer of safety is what our lifeguards help provide here.
Now, if you're interested in becoming a lifeguard, the city does offer classes. Now, I know the pool is where I'll be heading to after work today because it is just hot out there, Carson.
Yeah, and it's going to stay that way for the next 7 days, maybe longer than that, guys. Let's show you what's happening right now across the WAAY 31 SkyCam Network, sponsored by Topside Roofing and Construction. It's 11:21, and those temperatures, those actual temperatures, are already in the lower 90s. We've got plenty of sunshine. There is little in the way of relief to speak of for quite some time. We are dry across the WAAY 31 Storm Tracker Early Warning Radar Network. There is a small chance for an isolated thunderstorm, mainly in our eastern counties this afternoon. So we're talking Jackson, Marshall, and DeKalb counties in particular. But as I zoom things out, look at this big line of thunderstorms actually going through South Carolina and Georgia this morning. You notice how all this activity is kind of bubbled up over the last hour or two. This is thanks to a boundary that's left behind from a big massive storms that went through western North Carolina through the rest of South Carolina this morning. Most of this activity, if not all of it, will stay out of North Alabama. But we'll have to watch for any of this activity in northern Georgia that might try to scoot into some of our eastern counties later on today. For most of us, though, it is going to stay dry and it is going to stay very hot. Our forecast highs in the mid-90s today. Keep in mind, though, those feels like temperatures, that's going to be the bigger story, peaking around 106, 107 later on this afternoon. For that reason, we have another heat advisory. It just went into effect at the top of the hour. It is with us until 7 o'clock tonight. And even once that heat advisory expires, it'll still feel like 99 by 6 o'clock tonight and still feeling like 95 by 8 this evening. Make sure you have that sunscreen in addition to making sure you don't suffer from heat exhaustion. That UV index in the extreme category, we can get sunburns in about 10 minutes, maybe less than that, during that peak heat of the day this afternoon. Heading out to Toyota Field tonight, Trash Pan is getting a new homestand underway, this time against the Montgomery Biscuits. First pitch at 6:35. If you want to stay inside in the comfort of your home, watch the game on the couch, you can watch it on this TV, channel 31.6. I wouldn't blame you if you did that. But if you are heading out to the ballpark, we'll keep those temperatures around 90 at first pitch and still in the mid-80s with that small storm chance here in the metro through the 7th inning tonight. Here in the metro, though, I think most of us will stay dry. You see on future radar, we'll keep that mostly sunny sky in the forecast through your Tuesday. Quiet start to the day on Wednesday, but watch what happens by Wednesday afternoon. Start to see a few of those thunderstorms developing right on top of North Alabama. I think that thunderstorm coverage tomorrow is a bit higher everywhere in our coverage area. And there is a low-end chance that some of those storms tomorrow afternoon could be a bit on the strong side. It's just a level 1 risk for our severe weather outlook on our 1 to 5 scale. The greatest area of concern for any of those stronger storms will be along and east of I-65. Classic summertime storm threat, gusty winds around 50 to 60 miles per hour, and some very heavy rainfall as well. We'll keep a close eye on that, but of course the big headline is still the heat. Highs in the mid-90s through Friday. We do have a cool down this weekend, but it's not much of a cool down. Still in the low 90s for both Saturday and Sunday.
Happy birthday, U.S. Army.
Well, we'll break down the cake celebration and remember the 247 years of service coming up.
You may hear a few extra loud booms coming from Redstone Arsenal this week, starting today. And no, it's not just in celebration of the U.S. Army's birthday. In fact, Arsenal leaders say ordnance testing and detonations will begin today, if you haven't already heard them. And those tests are expected to go through Thursday. As we mentioned, the U.S. Army is celebrating 247 years of service today. It was established before the Revolutionary War on this day back in 1775. Redstone Arsenal celebrated the Army's birthday all weekend long, and it even wrapped things up with a cake-cutting ceremony yesterday. Here's a look at everyone gathered there. Today is about honoring all the men and women who have served and are still serving, and we thank you so much for your service. Still ahead, an early morning shooting in Morgan County leaves 2 men dead.
We have the very latest details on this story we've been on top of all morning long.
You're watching Alabama Broadcasters Station of the Year. Coverage you can count on. WAAY 31 Midday News starts now.
Here at 11:30, those temperatures are in the low 90s and it's getting hotter from there. We'll talk about some thunderstorm chances coming up.
We're also staying on top of breaking news from this morning. 2 men died in a shooting at a home in Somerville. What we know about the investigation at this hour.
And a major scare after a man opened fire at a kids' summer camp in Texas. The actions that kept kids safe and how a local school district is reassuring parents that their kids are safe. Thank you so much for staying here with us on WAAY 31 Midday News. I'm Alex Torres-Perez.
And I'm Marie Waxel. Let's go straight to WAAY 31 meteorologist Carson Meredith now. Carson, help us navigate this dangerous heat today and our chance, albeit little, for a few afternoon storms.
Yeah, that chance is there, but it's only a 20% chance throughout the day today. Let's look at those temperatures right now. That is the big headline. But keep in mind, these are the actual air temperatures, not talking about humidity and heat index just yet. 91 already in Huntsville, 91 in Scottsboro, 90 in Guntersville, 90 in Decatur, 92 degrees in Muscle Shoals, and we will keep on climbing into the mid and perhaps upper 90s through the rest of your Tuesday afternoon. Really a carbon copy of yesterday. Here's your weather on the go hour by hour with our WAAY 31 Storm Tracker weather app. We'll have a bit more cloud cover this afternoon, and there is a small chance for an isolated shower or storm in northeast Alabama in particular. Even so, it's a 20% chance. A lot of us are just going to bake through the rest of the day today. And even so, those temperatures still in the low to mid 80s later on tonight. Looking ahead to the next 3 days, actual air temperatures in the mid 90s. The heat is not going anywhere, but the storm chances, they are going up. We'll talk more about that on Future Radar in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Carson. Well, this just into our WAAY 31 newsroom this morning. Moments ago, TVA issued another voluntary curtailment to avoid a blackout in this heat. TVA leaders ask you to cut back on using major appliances like ovens, washing machines, and dryers during the peak afternoon hours. That's between 2 and 5 o'clock. We expected this to come down. It came down just moments ago, and the agency does expect issuing another voluntary curtailment to be in effect tomorrow and every day this week until Friday. Yesterday, TVA officials report seeing a record number of peak system load as we all try to stay cool. As the dangerous heat hangs around, it's important to stay aware to avoid hot car deaths.
I mean, every year, on average, 38 children die from heat stroke after being left in a hot car. And the National Safety Council says 2 kids have already died that way this year. But what if your car could actually warn you before any of that happens?
Nicole Nielsen has a look at this new technology.
It took about a dozen engineers and 2.5 years.
Definitely more than 8 hours a day. It's become a mission as opposed to just a job.
But finally, Toyota Connected in Plano is sharing a look at the future.
The point of this technology is to prevent hot car deaths.
It's new technology they call cabin awareness, meant to save lives and prevent heat stroke deaths inside the car. Whether it's a baby or animal accidentally left in the back seat, or one who gets in on their own.
Take a look at our iPad here. It represents the knowledge about what we know of the car, right? There's no one in it. It's completely empty. But if we take our fake baby here, we're going to put her inside of the car, make sure that she's all snapped in. And as soon as she's in the car, we start to recognize that a child is inside and that child is buckled up. And this is all due to these advanced radars that can detect the child.
They don't calculate by weight or cameras. Instead, they sense micro movements like heartbeats or breathing.
So we are able to distinguish between a grocery bag and the human, whereas a weight sensor can't do that.
And how are you notified? The car will start by honking or flashing its lights. Following those warnings could come a text message or phone call if programmed.
A lone occupant has been detected in your green Toyota Sienna for 2 minutes.
The feature isn't ready to roll out just yet. So far, it's still in trials. But these engineers say they hope to see it in all cars soon.
Obviously, we're developing this for Toyota and Lexus. This is something that we see potentially as what we're calling like our Volvo moment, where they invented the 3-point safety harness, the seatbelt that we all have today in every single vehicle. This is something that came out of the hackathon as part of a social good and innovation movement that we would like to see adopted everywhere.
Wow. Very interesting technology there. And it's nice. It doesn't even have an app.
Absolutely.
Well, something to keep in mind now, the CDC says leaving a window open does not make a hot car safe for any living thing. Even with windows open, temperatures inside the car can rise almost 20 degrees within the first 10 minutes.
And you can track today's heat by downloading our WAAY 31 Storm Tracker weather app. It's free for both Apple and Android devices.
All new at midday, a woman is now in jail after leading officers on a high-speed chase with kids in the car. Owens Crossroads police say this woman, Barbara Billingsley, was driving 121 miles an hour down US 431. When officers caught up with her, she then drove off into Huntsville. The chase went over Montesano to the Parkway and Sparkman Drive area. Spike strips were used to eventually stop her, and that's when officers found 2 kids under the age of 5 inside the car. Billingsley now faces several charges, including reckless endangerment.
And 2 people are dead after a shooting in Somerville this morning. Right now, officials are working to figure out how the 2 men knew each other. The Morgan County Sheriff's Office found Henry Shoemaker with multiple gunshot wounds at his home or at a home off Robin Private Drive. The suspect, Carl English, also died at a hospital in Marshall County. That's after officials say he shot himself after a multi-county chase. Officials are working to figure out what led up to that shooting.
Well, today is the last day to apply for an absentee ballot in next week's primary election runoff. Friday is the deadline to return those ballots by hand. Of course, those of you voting in person will use these machines next Tuesday, June 21st. If you want to look at your ballot ahead of time, you can find sample ballots for the runoff election for your county specifically all across North Alabama on our website right now, WAAYTV.com. Now to the terrifying close call in Texas after a gunman started shooting at a children's summer camp.
Thankfully, none of the students were hurt, and staff are actually being commended for keeping those kids safe. ABC's Rena Roy explains what happened.
Emotional reunions in Duncanville, Texas, after police say a gunman opened fire at this summer camp program Monday.
He had texted me and said, "Mom, I think someone's entered the field house with a gun."
Children ages 4 to 14 were inside the Duncanville field house when authorities say a man armed with a handgun burst in and began shooting.
He went in the room and then we heard shooting and then we got scared and everybody started crying.
The suspect entered through the main lobby doors with a handgun. That was the initial gunfire, the initial shot that the people inside the location heard.
Parents rushing to find out if their children were okay.
My immediate emotion was to panic.
Camp counselors trained for these scenarios, acting quickly, moving kids to a safe area and locking the doors.
I was praying to God just so nothing will happen, so nothing bad won't happen.
Police arriving 2 minutes after receiving calls, shooting and killing the suspect shortly after. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
There was no hesitation whatsoever. As we're very thankful for their training, that they do exactly what they're trained to do.
Police say they don't know what motivated the shooter to open fire. Daily summer camps there are canceled until further notice, and children will be relocated to other camps. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Unfortunately, this is something that's been happening more and more frequently. Another close call happened earlier this month just south of us in Gadsden.
That, along with the recent mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas, led to some changes in Morgan County. Now, their school's summer program now has extra security. There were no threats made to the school district, so let's just be clear on that. School leaders say they just wanted to make sure everyone felt safe, and it's a change that parents appreciate.
You know, to bring her here and knowing now that there'll be, a cop on duty, it makes me feel 100% better. Somebody's watching after my child and even other children,
A deputy will be stationed at all 9 elementary schools in Morgan County through the end of June. That is when summer school ends.
Leaders in both parties say they hope to vote on a new gun control legislation next week. Right now, lawmakers say they are trying to make it harder for people to buy guns illegally and address concerns like gun owners and mental health. The Justice Department says it's already working on new plans to stop gun trafficking. A Limestone County High School fishing team has earned a chance to go to a national championship.
How you can help them get there.
And just make sure you take it easy if you're outside this afternoon. Day 2 of our dangerous heat wave is underway. We have the chance for a few storms for the rest of the week. We'll talk more about that in a few minutes.
Well, Auburn baseball is going to the College World Series.
The team beat Oregon State to advance to Omaha. The Tigers will see some familiar faces in Nebraska. Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Texas A&M from the SEC all made the cut. This is the 6th College World Series appearance in program history for Auburn. They'll play Ole Miss in their first game, which is set for Saturday. Well, today, the Rocket City Trash Pandas look to add to their 3-game winning streak. The team will start a 6-game homestand against the Montgomery Biscuits. First pitch, 6:35 tonight. And it is ladies' night at the ballpark, meaning drink specials all night for you ladies.
All right, Marie, you have plans.
Right, I know. We'll be here.
Yes. Out in Limestone County, the Indians fishing team has already reeled in a state title, but now they need your help to get to the National Bass Fishing Championship.
It is all the way in Hartwell, South Carolina. Right now, the team's trying to reel in some donations to get them off the hook for the full cost of expenses.
Now, East Limestone's coach, Donnie Story, believes his team has what it takes to net in some attention.
It would mean everything to these kids. I mean, this is going to be on Bassmaster Television. It'll be filmed on ESPN. People are going to see this tournament all over the country, and it would be awesome for them to be high enough in the standings that they get featured on TV while they're fishing. That would be a dream come true for every one of them, I'm sure.
And you can find a link to donate to their GoFundMe on our website, WAAYTV.com. And a new treatment for alopecia has been approved today.
The FDA says the option may help with inflammation. New at midday, the FDA approved the first ever treatment for alopecia. It's an autoimmune skin disease that causes hair loss. The treatment is called Alopecia. The FDA says the pill blocks an enzyme that actually leads to the inflammation, which is what triggers the body's hair loss response. Extreme weather is impacting more than 100 million Americans.
From record heat spreading all the way to Minnesota to severe storms forcing people to take cover or evacuate.
ABC's Andrew Dimbert gives us a look at the impact across the country.
This morning, millions of Americans are on alert for extreme weather, from dangerous heat to damaging storms. A supercell thunderstorm tore through Chicago last night, leaving a trail of damage stretching into Indiana. At Wrigley Field, a tornado warning delayed the Cubs game. Fans and teams took shelter as warning sirens blared. Farther west, Yellowstone National Park is closed after rainfall described as unprecedented triggered flooding and rock slides.
Oh my God! There's that big rock.
The Yellowstone River rose 6 feet between Sunday and Monday, well above the river's previous high mark set in 1918.
Holy!
In Corwin Springs, Montana, rushing water washed away this bridge. Authorities say many residents in the area are now isolated as a result of damaged roads. Visitors still in the park are being evacuated, and all 5 park entrances will remain closed until at least tomorrow. Meanwhile, more than 100 million Americans face an early summer heat wave from the Gulf Coast to the Great Lakes. Students in Milwaukee will go home early today because of the heat. Experts say climate change is forcing more schools to use so-called heat days when they close because they don't have air conditioning. A recent study found 13,700 public schools in the U.S. that did not need AC in 1970 have now installed it or will need to install it by 2025 at a cost of $40 billion. The hot and dry conditions also fueling this wildfire in Arizona.
And more people are being told to prepare to evacuate because of that fire in Arizona. Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, New York.
Well, we are definitely feeling that heat here in North Alabama.
Let's check in with meteorologist Carson Meredith now. Carson, these numbers, as we were talking, aren't quite record-breaking, but they're stuff that we are used to seeing later in the summer months.
Yeah, it's not unheard of to be talking about these kind of temperatures in June, but it's definitely not all that common either. We're usually talking about this in late July or August instead, but nonetheless, this heat is going to be staying with us for at least the next 7 days, maybe longer than that. A reminder that heat advisory now covers our entire WAAY 31 coverage area. It went into effect at 11 o'clock this morning, and it is with us until 7 o'clock tonight. And another thing I'll mention, the same exact heat advisory is in effect tomorrow as well, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. for those heat index values, or what it feels like with that humidity getting over 105 degrees. We are dry on the WAAY 31 Storm Tracker early warning radar network here at home. Still watching these thunderstorms across much of Georgia right now. Got one severe thunderstorm warning northeast of Atlanta. I'll be watching northern Georgia very closely this afternoon. Some of those storms are right along a boundary that could sneak its way into Jackson, Marshall, and DeKalb counties throughout the afternoon. Otherwise, we are going to stay dry and very hot. So if you are heading out for lunch this afternoon, heading out for dinner, you may want to be outside, but personally, I would not recommend it. We'll keep those temperatures around 93 degrees, feeling more like the triple digits as you're heading out for your lunch break. And even by dinner time tonight, still very hot with that small chance for an isolated storm, mainly in northeast Alabama, by 90 degrees at 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. I would recommend being by the pool today if you can. 96 is that forecast high, but when you factor in that humidity, it's going to feel more like 106 or 107 during that peak heat of the day at 2 or 3 o'clock today. Unfortunately, as you see on our humidity tracker, that air you can wear, it's just not going anywhere. Those darker greens that you see, that's that much more humid air that forces that dangerous heat to become a factor. That's why we have the heat advisory today, another one tomorrow. By the end of the work week, we could get a small reprieve in that dangerous heat, but it's still going to be pretty hot for quite some time. Here we go with future radar. 3 o'clock this afternoon. This particular model keeps things quiet, but I am going to watch northeast Alabama for some of those isolated storms developing this afternoon. Otherwise, we stay dry. A quiet start to your Wednesday morning, but that thunderstorm coverage tomorrow afternoon is a bit more widespread. You see some of those thunderstorms developing along I-65, perhaps by 2 or 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And any of the storms that we do see on Wednesday could be strong to marginally severe. We're talking the classic summertime threats, gusty winds around 50 to 60 miles per hour, and some very heavy rainfall too. We're also keeping a close eye on the tropics. We got another area of interest down in Central America towards Panama. Not an official storm yet. National Hurricane Center, though, giving it a 40% chance of development. Long-term data suggests this system could be trouble for the Gulf Coast by the end of June. Way too early for specifics, but we'll keep a close eye on that system, as well as the heat here at home. 20 to 30% chance for a few pop-up storms through Friday. Then we dry things out this weekend with those temperatures still in the low 90s.
All right, thank you, Carson. A North Alabama chef earns major bragging rights.
Which award the Muscle Shoals native earned? Coming up. Well, a Muscle Shoals native received a prestigious culinary award.
The nonprofit James Beard Foundation handed out its annual awards, and Adam Evans of Birmingham was named Best Chef in the South. Again, he's a Muscle Shoals native, and he's the owner of Automatic Seafood and Oysters. The James Beard Awards were started more than 30 years ago to support and elevate the folks behind America's food culture. Big congratulations to him.
Just in time for lunch. Heading for the mid-90s this afternoon. It is going to be hot, folks. I'd stay inside as much as you can today. Limit your time outdoors. We do have the chance for a few spotty storms this afternoon, especially Wednesday and Thursday. But the big storyline is that heat is with us all week long.
For 24/7 coverage, you can count on local news, breaking news, and severe weather. Go to WAAYTV.com.
We'll see you this afternoon at 4. Stay cool out there.